Hello chums, and welcome to Setups for Simpletons. I've created an entire series dedicated to explaining Gran Turismo 7's quirky and sometimes unforgiving tuning system, but sometimes it's nice to just copy someone else's homework and be done with it. So in this series I will take one car at a time, show a complete setup, and a lap of the Nürburgring for good measure. Disclaimer, if you use my setup it does not mean you're a simpleton. Let's begin! As I continue to milk the new Avantime for all it's worth, this is my latest video on the French toaster, covering the engine swap. While it may be a Volkswagen engine, it's still a V6, but here it makes 788 horsepower, and that's being sent to the front wheels. I'm sure that'll work well. For the visuals, the car has the wide body fitted. The wheels are one size up from standard, which makes the car more unsettled by curbs, but it can also make the car feel more direct when changing direction. The Avantime has a front splitter for front downforce, a rear diffuser for extra downforce at both ends, and the rear wing to keep it all stable. The livery is based on the Espace F1 with a few modern touches. You can find it by searching for Super Turismo, and I also have a time-lapse video of the livery on my channel. The setup is similar to what I would do for most front-wheel drive cars. There's not a huge amount you can do to prevent wheel spin unless you go down the route of adding ballast weight to the front axle, which will then hurt braking performance. Gear ratios also need to be set higher than the expected top speed of the car, because this engine has a power drop-off at high revs. Short shifting will make this one faster. I was intending for this car to go into a monster taming video, but the default settings didn't actually present all that much of a problem. More recently, I prefer the default settings to be a complete shambles to warrant a Taming A Monster episode. The SR20 swapped Alpine A110 is a great example. This car meanwhile was already quite tame on default settings. A Volkswagen engine in a Renault is about as unexpected as the Subaru engine in the Clio from the previous update. This one makes a tad more sense though, being a V6 like the original engine. A small part of me wishes that we got the LFA V10 engine instead though, just for some slightly more overt Espace F1 vibes. Still, there's nothing particularly wrong with this choice. As far as the handling goes, the Avant GTI isn't as bad as you might expect an 800 horsepower front-wheel drive to be, especially when we've had such tripe as the K20 Classic Mini, GT500 swapped RCR Civic, and the Porsche swapped Citroën DS. It's comparatively heavier than most front-wheel drive cars, but that actually works in its favour here, giving the car more traction, and it's helped massively by the rear diffuser option which adds downforce, so this car handles brilliantly at high speeds. It does suffer slightly with braking though. On my practice runs I overshot some of the corners multiple times, and the long wheelbase does make the car feel a little bit vague at times as well. Beyond that though, this car is actually a complete hoot, and it's undoubtedly a better place for this engine than the Mark 7 Golf GTI that also gets it. In the end, I managed just under 6 minutes 26, which is half a second faster than the Clio with the EJ20 engine. It's also just behind a Hellcat Challenger. That'd make an interesting race, wouldn't it? So, that was my setup for the engine-swapped Avantime. I hope it helped. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, subscribe and kick me on the bell so that you get notified of my future uploads. Take care of yourself, and ta-ra.